Hey everybody, welcome back. I am your host, Joe JDF Foster, and today we're going to see me giving my review on the Three Ninjas franchise. Uh, a movie set in the 90s about three brothers raised on martial arts, and it was a high-packed action comedy set styling. Now, while the movie does have a lot of martial arts, it also focuses on the connection between the brothers and their grandfather, who actually taught them martial arts, while the parents lived their everyday lives. Now, for some interesting facts about this, starting with the original, let's just dive right in here with the original Three Ninjas in 1992. When Disney originally acquired the rights to this movie, they found it too violent. So, in order to lessen the violence idea, they actually added cartoon sound effects to lessen it, and had the American version actually went further in editing of the scenes in order to get it a PG rating. Which is another thing about these movies. Majority of them were PG rather than PG-13. In fact, only one that I can remember was a PG-13 rating. And the international version features the scenes that were cut from the American. They were never released on the US home video, but they have been seen on the Wham net. But the international version has been seen on the Wham network and from time to time on Hulu. So I guess so. If you're wanting to see them, I recommend going there if you want to see the difference in them. Personally, I thought the first one was good enough on its own. That even though finding out it had cutscenes, that it actually worked that way. And also, when the original one aired, it had a cartoon short for a cartoon series that used to air called Bonkers. The one it had was called Bonkers Pedal to the Metal, and it was played before the film did. Before the movie started. And in the movie, there's a ninja with a painted mask and with a painted face. Turns out that the one called Colt in the American version, well, in international versions, he was called Mustang, apparently. That one I can only find in a couple of places to try and confirm. So if you saw the international version and you see this change, let me know. But like I said, when it came to this, turns out that the ninja with the painted face was actually the guy who trained him for this film. And there's a basketball scene during this movie where the one that plays Colt, Max Elliott Slade, actually got a bloody nose during the scene when they were shooting it. Well, in the international version, and there's also, I'm going to go ahead and say spoiler alert here. In the international version, it has them lose the first game, but at the end, it has the additional tie-up of loose ends by having an additional scene at the end dealing with this. Another thing about it is one of the minor villains in this movie, the henchman, was named Hammer. He was actually played by by a second assistant cameraman who, and even to this day, he still works cameras on sets, and he works on sets anyways, but mainly still behind the camera. And another interesting fact, the 3 actors who actually played the 3 ninjas in this movie, not one of them actually act anymore. The one who played the oldest brother, Rocky, played by Michael Trenier, actually works financial services. Max Slade played the middle-aged brother Colt, has a degree in anthropology and teaches yoga. And Chad Power, who played the youngest, Tum Tum, who they jokingly even make a reference in the movie about at the time, was because he liked to eat a lot. But he grew up after acting, became an assistant high school basketball coach back in his hometown. There's actually 4 movies to this series that I'm going to be going over. Sorry, I had this note out of spacing. There's actually 4 movies to the series, and I'll get back to that one. And also, the one who plays Grandpa is the only one to appear in all the films. Now to 3 Ninjas Kick Back. Turns out, which is listed as the 2nd film, but was released as the 3rd film. Which is because it was shot beforehand, but they had distribution problems, so they couldn't get it out. So they went ahead and had the next one in line go ahead. And it's the only film that does not feature the boys' parents at any time in the movie. And it's also the only one to be rated PG-13. Michael Trenier and Chad Powers' sisters, real life sisters, actually appear in this movie during the scene at the pizza place. Chad's sister is the one who asks them their names, and Michael's is the one that actually comes over the intercom saying, "Pickup order number 14." And it's the only film to have the same children reprise their roles, as well as the only one where the real boys' names aren't said, just their ninja names of Rocky, Colt, and Tum Tum. And also and it also goes for a completely. It's one of the 4 that goes for the completely different storyline idea, instead of having something to do with the martial arts or the family in some way that it actually matters with them. Now, in this one, they actually tried to take on I may be getting it mixed up with the one that it actually came before, but if I remember correctly, Knuckle Up's the one where they take on an environmental waste thing, so that it seemed more environmental importance rather than focusing on the way the film had been done in the past. And now I'm going to move on to the 1994 one, or what's listed as the 1994. It actually comes before Knuckle Up when it was done. Well, first of all, according to everywhere I could find it, I found this in 6, 7 different places. And it states that despite the setting for it being in Japan, the songs that were used on the soundtrack are actually Korean music. And the original title for this was going to be The Three Ninjas Go to Japan. Now, this one, to me, was more of a sequel to the first one, as it dealt with the brothers, it dealt with the grandfather, and it dealt with something to do with them. As in this one, Grandpa and them go to Japan, and an old rival comes after him in order to try and take something that he believes is his. And now for the final movie in the series, from 1998, Three Ninjas, High Noon at Mega Mountain. This would be Victor Wong's last film. And while the one that played Colt was supposed to reprise his role, he went back to school. And on that note, I didn't mention it earlier, one of them, either Knuckle Up or Kickback, they wanted Chad Power to reprise his role, but he couldn't. So, because he was working on another film. And the one who played Rocky had already given up his acting career. Sorry. And Max Slade, like I said, the one who played Cole, went on. I mean, he was supposed to reprise his role, but he, when they did High Noon at Mega Mountain, decided to go back to school instead. The big thing I found interesting is that when they did this film, they actually used a real theme park. They actually remodeled it and everything for their use. They remodeled it and everything for their own personal use. But if you look in the background, some of the signs and certain things can still be shown from the actual rides of where they were. And the opening sequence shows Colt using his nunchucks to reflect tennis balls, or deflect tennis balls. Pretty sure it works either way, but anyways, keeping them away. And this was actually a scene that mirrored the very first film, where he's doing the same action as a form of training. This is also the only movie. Big spoiler alert here, so you might want to skip just a little bit ahead. This is also the only movie to feature a female antagonist in it. And it had a number of cameos in it as well. Well, okay, now for my final notes. What made these films so great, to some extent, especially the first and what's listed as the third one, when you look them up on IMDb, or the International Movie Database. What made those films good what made those films good was that they actually focused on the brothers' union rather than just flat out throwing out martial arts or throwing it out to be a pure comedy. But they took into mind their audience for it. They made it an action and a comedy, while at the same time giving them a little bit of a story to deal with, because they knew their audience wasn't somebody wasn't an adult, so you couldn't make it story driven completely. But if you take away from it too much, that it was going to hurt it just as much. But it's the way they do it. They knew how to draw you in. And but In my mind, they did go too far in making 4 of them because that the movies were good, but they weren't as great as people, even me, even myself, want to believe they were. And that actually hurts the filming. And that actually hurts the film's credibility to be put up on a higher note, in my view. It's like when they made Alien. They could have done Alien, Alien 2, Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3, stopped there, been happy. But they made Resurrection, which caused another issue, which caused issues. And then they went on to make Covenant and Prometheus. If you want to make movies about the characters, there's only so much you can do with them without ruining it, without ruining the idea. Horror movies are a great example. Horror movies are good examples of the idea that you can make characters and have them go over and over and over and over, and it worked. But in the idea of comedies and action films, you have to be careful, because doing it too much, the fans get tired of it, and it becomes too predictable. Not doing it enough, they don't know what to expect, and it hurts their feel, and they lose just as much interest. Horror movies learned this lesson, and that could also be why the horror movie franchise started dying. But anyways, sorry I got off on a rant there. That went a little longer than I expected. Anyways, back to the thing I was doing. Now, I'm gonna give my ideas on this and my notes on each of the movies with their grade that I give them and the reason why. For the first film, the original Three Ninjas, I give it a grade of a solid B. And that's because it had a nice story and action, nicely timed out, and this cartoon side effects did take away from it a little, but the overall was a good story and union coming together. And it made everything work out and was good for a children's film. Now, Three Ninjas Knuckle Up, the story is not as great as the first one because while it focused on the martial arts, it lost its idea of what it actually was supposed to be, an action comedy. This one focused more on environmental issues and trying to save trying to do the right thing by saving the earth, and trying to stop some corrupt official type deal, rather than it being an action comedy. And originally I had a note that it was more comical than the first one, but that's actually wrong because I had the wrong film in mind originally. When I was setting this up, so that's not right. And I couldn't really find many positives for it, but I would say that the positive is the same as the negative in this one. That though the story wasn't great, it was a nice story somewhat. It just needed more development, was all. It needed more development to it and to have more action comedy thrown in. So that's why, to me, the Three Ninjas Knuckle Up movie got a C+. Now, Three Ninjas Kick Back, it was more comical than the first one, but not as action-packed. And it was more closely to the original story as well. where it focused on Grandpa and the kids rather than trying to do something else, trying to find some other story for it. And in this one, like I said, the original title was Three Ninjas Go to Japan because they went to Japan in the story to work on an issue that actually made sense to the idea of the story and what they believed in. Which is why with this one, Three Ninjas Kick Back gets a B-. And I do highly recommend Three Ninjas and Three Ninjas Kick Back as movie choices. As for the final film in the series, Three Ninjas High Noon at Mega Mountain, it was a last-ditch effort, in my view, to cash in on the franchise. And there's no real idea to the story. It's like, hey, let's just throw this in there, see what we can do. And so they just had to take over a theme park and throw in fighting sequences. Also, this is more of a who's who than an actual movie idea with people in it, as you had big names of the 90s, such as Lonnie Anderson, Jim Varney, who most people would know from, well, who a lot of 90s kids would know from the Ernest movies, and also professional wrestler Hulk Hogan. Yeah, really bad pronouncing that word. Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, or the Hulkster Hulk Hogan. Take Hulkamania Hulk Hogan. Take your choice on how you want to say his name, but Hulk Hogan overall, Terry Bollea in this film. It had no real story and nothing to really hold your attention, and you were pretty much waiting for the end of this film to happen when you watched it. Which is why my overall grade for this one is a D, and I recommend do not torture your children with this movie. It would be better to have them watch Knuckle Up and just count this. And if you really want to, in my view, when I do the Three Ninjas, I tend to skip this movie overall and want to claim the Three Ninjas as a trilogy rather than a quadrilogy. Though I know this movie exists because this one was so bad. Now, my overall rating for this would be, it's tough because it's action, the comedy of two films, but it's got the other two that bring it down. Overall, I would give the Three Ninjas franchise a B- overall. That's only because the other two films of Knuckle Up and High Noon at Mega Mountain aren't really all that great and drag down the franchise. Especially with High Noon at Mega Mountain. And now give me your thoughts on what you remembered about the Three Ninja movies, whether you enjoyed it, hated it, or even saw them at all, and what you thought of my video. And also leave in the comments video for an upcoming video, or message me. And you can message me here, you can message me here, and because comments I do better at because I actually read those a lot more. And I look forward to the next one. And if you leave me the message and I take your advice on the video to use, I will give you credit. So until then.